Is the infamous Irohazaka jump actually possible, or is it Initial D's biggest gimmick? I had never attempted the jump before, so firstly I needed to see if drivers were actually pulling this move out of the metaphorical bag.
I pulled it up.
However, I found something pretty strange. There are plenty of videos of the jump being performed, but they never actually show the jump in one action. It's always the lead up, then a cut to the jump. Is it too difficult for even the best drivers to perform? To find the answer, I'd need to try it myself.
Wicked.
I loaded up Irohazaka in the trusty Mr. 2 and set off down the snaking slope in an attempt to master it myself. But there was an issue. Irohazaka has 48 hairpins, and I'd first need to find out which one you can actually do the jump on. So I set about finding it. I could have just attempted the jump on each corner, but that would not have been practical at all. I had to work smarter, not harder. So instead, on my first run down, I didn't attempt it at all. I merely took a small meander down the road to case it out. I could easily remove 46 of the hairpins from the equation simply because it looked impossible. So we were left with 2 corners, and luckily they were right next to each other. The first jump wasn't as big as the second, but there was a lot more room to maneuver before the jump however. I attempted this jump a number of times and each one was as futile as the last, and it was clear that jump number 1 wasn't the one. So with one jump remaining, I knew all I had to do now was actually perfect the jump. That's the hard part. So I took a lengthy run up in my first Irohazaka jump attempt. The approach to the corner seemingly took forever. I gave the handbrake a hearty heave, swung the back end around and aligned the front of my car perfectly for the jump. I stepped on the throttle, gripping my steering wheel as tight as ever and sent it off the edge, and we failed. Yeah, you didn't think it would be that easy, would you? Just look at the state of that. So up and down I went along this short section of road, attempting it over and over and over and over. But then, after one particularly good attempt, I jumped over the guardrail and fell out of the map. Does that count as an Irohazaka jump? And with that, I had reached my limit.
Wicked.
In the back of my mind, however, I knew I couldn't give up that easily. I'd spent too much precious time attempting this, and I knew I had to get back up on the horse and try again. So reluctantly, I launched back into Irohazaka one final time. I had trouble with 2 aspects of the jump. Firstly, the run-up. As you can probably tell, Irohazaka is a very narrow road. And to do the jump, you need to swing your car around and line yourself up perfectly. This was only the start of my plight in search of the jump however. I either didn't rotate the car enough, which sent me around the hairpin as usual, or I rotated too much and hit the guardrail. But then, finally, progress. Yes, progress. I'd finally sussed out the technique for lining the car up. It entailed drifting the previous hairpin and holding off the transition all the way until it was time to do the jump. At that point, you rip the handbrake and let weight transfer put in the work. Easy enough, right? Wrong. The dreaded car bounce came back to haunt me. Even if I perfected every other part of the jump and got it bang on the money, the car hitting the ground would fail every attempt. Assetto Corsa simply wasn't designed for this. But what if we tried it in the most realistic crash simulator the public can get their hands on? I attempted the Irohazaka jump over 30 times on BeamNG and none of them came off well. Either the front bumper was getting ripped off or the car was simply flipping over. That ledge is simply too high and it's not totally flat, which flips the car. So corner 1 was no go, but remember corner 2. It was a lot smaller and it didn't have that ledge, but it was just as bad. The front end was getting totally ripped off and the car was very unstable upon landing. So the Irohazaka jump probably isn't as viable as we would like to think, but I don't doubt that someone actually tried it once. But if you do want a cool technique to learn from Initial D that is actually viable, make sure you click this video.